Hello, I'm Liz Sinclair of Maine's Center for the Book. I am delighted to introduce you to Maine author Kim Ridley and her beautiful book, The Secret Pool, which we've selected to represent Maine at this year's National Book Festival. It was illustrated by Rebekah Raye and published by Tilbury House Publishers. The Secret Pool is about vernal pools. These are pools that form every spring when low places on the forest floor fill up with rain and melted snow. They're home to many creatures, to hatching wood frogs, spotted salamanders, and fairy shrimp. And although they don't last long, they do play a crucial role in maintaining a healthy environment. This book has won many awards, including the Lupin Award by the Maine Library Association. Now I'd like to introduce you to Kim Ridley. Kim is a Maine science writer, essayist, editor, and children's book author. Her passion is inciting wonder by sharing her love of nature and science with children and adults through her award-winning books, essays, and teaching. Kim, it's so wonderful to have you here. Thank you for being with us.
Thanks, Liz. Happy to be here.
The National Book Festival's theme this year is Everyone Has a Story. Can you share just what this theme means to you?
Sure. Yeah. Well, first of all, I love the theme because I feel that it's an invitation. Everyone has a story is an invitation to listen. And in the work I do, which is writing books for children and their grown-ups, including The Secret Pool, is I think about everyone in a kind of wider sense. I think of everyone, I think of every place. Every place has a story. Every creature has a story. So when I think about this theme in a broader context, it's really an invitation to share and to listen. And the theme recalls something that Terry Tempest Williams said years ago, which is stories bypass rhetoric by piercing the heart. So stories connect us all, human, other than human, and place. So when I visit a place like a vernal pool or a special place, I really have this sense of these places as entities with stories to tell. And that's my passion, is listening and then sharing with others.
Well, that's beautiful, Kim. Thank you for sharing that. I'm going to be taking that in for quite a while, actually. I love the quote that you gave from Terry Tempest Williams. And I think this kind of rolls into our second question. Could you share with us what inspired you to write The Secret Pool and why you think it's important to tell this story?
Sure. It's actually several things inspired me to write The Secret Pool. It started many years ago. I grew up in Maine and I loved roaming the woods behind my parents' house. And one of my favorite haunts I discovered when I was probably 7 or 8 years old was this lovely, shallow pool that magically appeared in spring. I did not know about vernal pools then, but I loved just roaming around looking for wildflowers, trailing arbutus, watching birds with a pair of clunky old binoculars. And also I had a thing for tadpoles. So I would go up to this lovely pool. What was great about it is that you couldn't see the pool from the house, but it was within earshot. So when it was time for dinner, my mom could call us down for dinner. But I would just watch the pool over the seasons and go and observe the eggs and wonder, whose eggs are these amphibian eggs? I would watch the tadpoles and the life around the pool, the plants. There was a beautiful rock I'd sit on and a big old hemlock tree and lots of lovely maples. And then in the summer, I remember coming back and the pool had dried up. And I remember rummaging in the leaf litter, wondering, oh my gosh, what happened to the tadpoles? Did they turn into frogs in time? And I was very concerned. And then I came back in the autumn one day and there were all of these little tiny frogs around the pool, froglets, and they were about the size of my thumbnail. So I made that connection. that there was some kind, these frogs had survived. And then fast forward many years later, I worked with researchers at the George Mitchell Center at the University of Maine. And one of the teams there was working on vernal pools as a way to integrate vernal pools into community conservation efforts. And what I learned there from Dr. Aram Calhoun is that vernal pools feed the entire forest. And I had no idea of this. They turn fallen leaves and rainwater into new life through the magic of the food web. And at the same time, as I was learning about these pools, I recalled my childhood haunt, and I wanted children and their grown-ups to know about these magical places, because right around this time, protections for certain vernal pools were being threatened. So in Maine, certain pools that have, any pool that has fairy shrimp in them, which are these delightful little creatures about the size of a paper clip, and they're kind of about the color, a little more yellow than my top. Any pools that have fairy shrimp are considered important vernal pools. And so there were some measures of protection around them. And those protections, there was conversation about those protections being rolled back. So I had a sense of urgency. I wanted these incredible places that are vital to the health of a forest to continue to be protected. And to me, conservation begins when people fall in love with a place. So it starts with love. And I think that our most important work starts with love and with story. So that was a real motivation to write this book. And one of the most important decisions I had to make, one of the most challenging decisions, is how to tell the story in an engaging way and how to convey my love and passion for science and invite everybody in. And the really most critical decision was voice. So I decided to let the pool tell its own story so the pool, and water is poetry. So the pool narrates its own story in a lyrical voice. And the other choice I wanted to make is I wanted this book to grow with children. So there's also a lot of information about vernal pools and their creatures in the book that kids can read as they get older. So really, you were mentioning inciting wonder is my passion. I find it in the natural world and right outside our doorstep. So that's what really inspired me to write this book, and so that everybody could love and treasure these places. And here's one of my favorite creatures, a wood frog, which is very common. They're the world's coolest frog, and I wanted children to know that because they can live farther north than any frog in the world. And speaking of wondrous, they survive the winter I had no idea of this, by freezing into frogsicles. So they crawl under the leaf litter and freeze. And then when it starts to rain in the spring, they thaw, they magically come to life. Their hearts start beating, they start breathing, and off to the vernal pools to lay their eggs. So these places are all around us. They're places that we walk by and have no idea of. So I just want everybody to know and treasure the magical places in their neck of the woods.
Well, thank you for that. And we've got one more quick question before we let you go. What was the biggest surprise writing this book for you?
Yeah, well, there were, first of all, finding out about the amazing creatures like wood frogs, I mentioned. Another one is fairy shrimp, which I mentioned. What's fascinating about fairy shrimp, they're ancient, they're older than dinosaurs. So they survived the cataclysms that wiped out most life on Earth. They're several 100 million years old. And what surprised me is, well, they can only live a few hours outside of water. And I wondered, how do they spread from pool to pool? And I love to ask kids that, and come to find out their eggs can stay on the bottom of a vernal pool. They dry up, and they can survive at least 15 years in the leaf litter. So they blow around like tiny tumbleweeds, or they stick, they're kind of sticky on the outside. They stick to other creatures that visit pools. And that's how fairy shrimp spread from pool to pool. I think the biggest and most joyful surprise is I feel like after all these years, I've finally found my people, and they're 10 and under. As a science journalist, I love writing for adults and have great joy in that, and teaching adults. But in writing for kids, this has opened the door for me to visit elementary schools around the state. I travel around New England, but as a Mainer, I'm so grateful for this place where we live. And my joy is teaching science and nature writing to elementary school kids and introducing them to the wonders of vernal pools and other magical places literally surrounding us.
Oh, well, thank you so much for your time and for sharing with us. And again, I hope everybody will pick up The Secret Pool. It is a book that is great for young folks and older folks. And it's something every time I've been looking at it, I see something and learn something new. So thank you so much, Kim.
You're welcome.
So Maine's selection for the National Book Festival, The Secret Pool, was not only written by a Maine author, it was illustrated by an artist from Maine. So I'm pleased to be able to share a conversation with Rebekah Raye. She is originally from Tennessee, but we are so proud to call her a Mainer because she lives here now. She has been inspired by nature all of her life. She also was inspired by her father, who's a painter, and her mother, who's a scientist. So the connection between science and art is very strong with Rebekah. So Rebekah, we're delighted to have you here. I'm going to jump into the first question. The theme of the National Book Festival this year is Everyone Has a Story. I'm curious about what that theme means to you.
Oh, I love that theme so much, Liz, because growing up with my artist father, he was a great storyteller, and I just would sit beside him and relish in his words. And forever now, I am so inspired by listening to books, hearing poetry, music, poetry, anything related to story. And I just go off in my own world, and I feel like it's important to share, like we all need to share and communicate. And I love the idea of passing down stories, which I've done with my father's stories, and it just takes you away. And I love sharing that with the children.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Rebekah. And I see that we're in your studio. We're visiting you in your studio, so that's exciting. And that kind of makes me think of another question for you. So often when we pick up books, we think about the words and we look at the images, and I don't know, I think we think the images come right away to the artist, or you're told exactly what to draw or paint, and that you just create those things really fast. But I know that that's not the case. Could you tell us a little bit about your process? Like, do you do research when you're working on a book or on some drawings or paintings? Let us know a little bit about that.
Oh, my process is, as I might sound strange, but I love to get the manuscript or of the story, and I take my recorder and I just record myself reading. And it started with the first book, Thanks to the Animals, with Alan Sakabason. I had a little tape recording of him telling the story of Thanks to the Animals. And I found that I can sit there over and over again and sketch small little thumbnail drawings, what comes to mind as I'm listening to the recording. And it helps me so much with the emotional content of the story. And the action, the words that are used, the action words, or the feeling in the words, that's one of the top ways I start. And then I do tons of research. And the best thing is if I can work from life. And if I can't work from life, I'll do everything library, scientists. I want to be accurate with my drawings and paintings for the nonfiction, but it allows some kind of approachable feeling. And I was fortunate to live near Vernal Pool. So I spent a lot of time. I saw the bittern. I saw the birds that visited. I saw at night, I'd see the sprawling wood frogs with their legs just straight out on the surface of the water, just covering each other. And I witnessed these things that helped me draw them and learn to draw them, learning their markings and how many toes they had and what their eyeballs looked like and all those important facts. I have to get it right, especially because I know the writer, Kimberly in this case, she does tremendous research, and we're such good friends that if I have a question, I can simply call her, and or she may have an idea, but she doesn't tell me what to draw or how to draw it. There's a lot of freedom, but I love to share with her because it's such a surprise for her. She tells me to see that what comes out of her different phrases, and it's exciting.
That's really generous of you to share like what your process is, Rebekah. It sounds like I love the fact that it's rooted in your observation and all of your research, and also rooted in your heart and your direct experiences with these creatures and the whole idea of the vernal pool. I sense that in all of the work of yours that I've seen. There's a deep love of animals and nature. And what I love about the book too is that just as Kim's prose is very poetic and also has so many facts in it, you know, I feel the same about your paintings. They go together well. There's a poetry to them as well as just these wonderful stories unfolding about the actual lives of the salamanders and the turtles and the frogs. So
I love that. Thank you. There was moments in the book about certain things that happened in the Congress of you reminded me, in the salamanders dance. And I did get to witness that when one particular very dark night, and it was rainy, and I had my flashlight and I could go out there and see this swirling, twirling salamanders, yellow spotted salamanders curling around each other in this. Yes, that's the painting. And in the corners of the book, you'll see I place single ones, and those that represent the females, because it's the males I learned that do this dance. And the female, if she likes a particular one, as he dances, she'll follow him. And that will be her partner for that moment, for her eggs. And I just loved learning that, witnessing it, and that being there at that moment, feeling the rain and just that whole magic of, if other nights I'd be in bed probably. So it's those wonder moments if you're there.
And I'm going to hopefully show just part of that illustration from the book, for that painting.
Oh, I love that.
I love it too. And I love knowing more about that and how you saw this and did research and know that there's the lone female kind of off to the side.
Yes.
Rebekah, thank you so much for being with us. It's such a delight to speak with you, and I hope everybody enjoys this collaboration between you and Kim in this amazing novel. I say novel, but there are so many things in it. It's very deep. The Secret Pool.
Thank you so much, Liz.